drums, an instrument everybody loves.
Yes, 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 YouTube. How's it going? Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. I'm your host, Why It Matters. Excuse me. Um, Let me know, whoever's in the chat, whether my sound is coming through okay. I think I'm coming through all right, but again, let me know how my sound is coming through. Hope everyone is doing wonderful this evening. I was scheduled to do a live stream earlier on today, but I kind of just put that to the back burner. I've been kind of feeling a little bit just, what's the word? A bit lazy at the moment. So you have to apologize for my infrequent uploads at the moment, but I'm trying to get back into the things. I think it's just winter's here, clocks have gone. Well, the clocks have changed, and now I'm just a little bit, I don't know what it is, but bear with me, people. I will be back to doing my normal live streams and just normal uploads in general. But yeah, so I suppose the reason for this live stream is it kind of comes off the back of a couple of things. So the first thing I was to say, I was listening to Falcon Black, so big up to you. I was listening to your I was watching your video in regards to, it was titled Black Men Shouldn't Be Wearing Earrings, or to stop wearing earrings, or something to that effect. And I don't know how it happened. It's almost like the algorithm gods then decided to then direct me to a web page, some sort of web page that I saw, in which I saw the footballer Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I don't know if any of you guys like football or anything like that at all, but he's an Everton football player. He's currently injured, but he's a forward, or say striker, really. And I just saw this image, and it's the thumbnail to this video of him wearing, I don't know what he's wearing. He's wearing clearly a schoolgirl's dress. And you look at his hairstyle and everything, and this is meant to be for a fashion magazine. And it just got me thinking. And it's like, it also got me thinking, because another live stream that another YouTuber, the Duke, he did, talking about how, black males tend to be overly emotional. And it all leads me to this one question. Is this now the new face of masculinity, especially in the West? I mean, what kills me the most is, we talk about toxic masculinity, we talk about a lot of things right now, but I'm just scared for just forget toxic. I'm just scared at the moment for just the direction of where masculinity is heading. Now, disclaimer, I have to have this disclaimer, because I know what people are going to think, they're going to assume, but it's not correct. I do not care one out of way what you kind of do with your private life. That is up to you. But there is some questions that do need to be raised about certain things, which, in my humble opinion, it just needs to be commented on, because people hate this woke agenda, people hate these other things. I'm like, there is something clearly that's going on. There's something that is clearly going on in the waters over here, which I just kind of want to have a conversation with us to understand what is going on, and how do people feel what it is to be a man. Because we always talk about these, these conversations that always keep going on about gender roles, what women should be doing, what men should be doing. But I'm just thinking to myself, is this the new face? Is this the new role? Is this a new trend? Because he's not the first one. I mean, you look at other people as well who you see in the press, and these are famous people. I mean, you have Dominic Calvert-Lewin here, but I could even point to Lewis Hamilton. I mean, when you see the evolution, this is another thing that kills me the most about, we talk about fashion, how it comes in loops and cycles, but it just kills me the most when you see these. I mean, I won't call these guys, I mean, I don't know if you want to call them guys alpha males. I hate using those terms, but these guys are in high performing arenas of sport where, if anything, you're thinking these guys, I'm not saying that, they have to be the most stereotypical meatheads, but you're thinking these guys are meant to be leaders of men. They're the guys who other men are going to look up to, young and even old. And you just think to yourself, is this now the new face? I mean, again, to each their own, I get all that. But the conversation, I just want to have this conversation about what is it that's going on over here that's making, I suppose, we talk about these gender pronouns, how everything is gender fluid. It reminds me, this era right now reminds me of the 80s. Now, I wasn't really alive in the 80s, so I can't have any opinion on it. But when I look at the history of the 80s and how everything was so gender fluid, look at the music, you look at how the imagery was presented. Everyone was kind of uniform. Men and women looked all the same, homogenized. Everything was just androgynous. That's the word I'm looking for. And we say that history repeats itself. And is this just a simple case of history's now repeated itself? We've come from like the 90s and the noughties where it was a little bit more, I don't know, let's just say the gender roles were more nicely split. We know what a man was, we knew what a woman was, but now all of a sudden we've gone now full, I want to say full circle, but we've gone now again back to the 80s where now we don't know what a man is. We can't, apparently now, this is the craziest thing. You cannot say whether someone is a man or a woman. You can't say these words. Apparently now these gender words are social conventions. They're no longer biological. So forget just calling someone a male. You have to call someone a cis male or a cis man or a cis woman. It's crazy. But this is kind of the pattern that we're seeing right now. So when I saw this magazine cover, when I saw this picture of, I don't know what to even make of it. I mean, when you actually look at the article or a little bit of the article, what I actually read of that was released, all what was said was he's trying to push the boundaries of fashion. He's trying to do something different. And I'm thinking to myself, man, is that really what kind of the image that we want sending out? Now, I don't want to make it a race thing because this is just in general, but I'm seeing it more when it comes to, no, I lie. I see this all over the joint. This ain't a race thing. This is just a masculinity thing. So I'm not even going to take it there. But again, another example is Lewis Hamilton. Again, he's another example of a character who, again, I've been following for a while because I like Formula One. So I do follow him and other drivers. And of all the drivers, he's the one who always wants to be that one who's just different. I mean, he's naturally different just because, let's bring in the race element, he's the first quote unquote black Formula One driver. But now he's gone so much full circle because if you look at his evolution of what it was when he came in, he was wearing baggy jeans, baggy clothes. He didn't dress the way he's dressing now. So I'm just thinking, is this also the evolution of what it is become a man nowadays? Is this what it is right now? You see more of the stereotypical masculine vibe, and now you're going to, look at the jeans, for example. If you look at fashion, you have jeans that used to be very, very baggy, used to be loose fitting. It used to make sure that you knew exactly what a man's trousers were, what men's jeans were, what men's outfits were in comparison to women, where women's were more tighter, form fitting. Now you can't tell the difference. The whole skinny jeans thing, what really set off about 7, 8, 9 years ago, I would say, it's still here. Men's trousers are becoming tighter, shorter, and now you have this situation where you have a guy wearing a schoolgirl's blouse. That's what it is in a nutshell. And again, he's not the only one. You look over across the pond, you have I saw Russell Westbrook, basketball player. He was wearing a dress, and these guys proudly do it. And these guys are married, have kids. And I'm thinking to myself, how is it possible? Two things. How is it possible that we have said that this is acceptable? I know people will say, well, what does it mean? What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be this? What does it mean to be that? I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, we know what looks like a man. We know what looks like a woman. Forget all this stuff about stereotyping. Forget all this stuff about pigeonholing. I get that men and women have ranges in which we allow acceptability, but there becomes that line. We all know what that line looks like. When you see a woman, you think that looks like someone who wants to be a man. You see a guy, you think that's someone who looks like he wants to be a woman. We know what the line is. Of course, nowadays, because everything's so PC, we can't say it. Because everything's so fluid, we can't say that's not right. That's not right. That's not what a man is. That's not what a woman is. We always have to try and play with these things, semantics. Well, who defined this and who defined that? By our base instinct, by nature, by design, we know what it looks like. If it talks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, guess what it's likely to be? It's likely to be a duck. So I'm always interested here because this is, for me, it's just one step. When I see guys like this who dress like this, when I see the things that they wear, how they look, when I see all that kind of mess, I'm just thinking to myself, that's just preparing everyone else, you, me, everyone included, to the next stage, which is they're going to likely come out as being, if it's not going to be, they're going to come out as part of the LGBT, the alphabet community. If it's not fully that way, it's either bisexual, it's either this. Listen, there's a culture going on right now where we have men like in, Transformers anyway. So these are just these building blocks. And I want to really, really know, is there something in the waters? What's going on? Help me out here. Help me understand, people, exactly what's going on in the waters that would allow these things to take place, where you would have, in my opinion, red-blooded heterosexual males dressing like this. Because again, maybe I'm old school, maybe I'm stuck way, 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 way back in the past. But growing up, there are certain things which you just did not do as a man. You just didn't do it. You didn't even touch it. I mean, but again, the evolution of, again, as I said before, big up to Falcon Black. He did a video talking about how wearing earrings, if you had an earring pierced in your right ear, it would considered you were, you know what I mean, you're on that side of the fence. So you had to have your ear pierced on your left ear first, and then it evolved into two ears being pierced again because of the culture. And this is another thing that we have to talk about when we talk about masculinity, because the culture, when you talk about music, film, TV, that is a huge impact. We can't deny this, a huge impact into what young people are seeing, our young males, our young females. It has a huge bearing as to what we're seeing as the standard of masculinity or femininity. But we talk about males right now and their standard of masculinity, and we look at these things and we're thinking it's so messed up. And even when we talk about like the thug culture that took place, the gangster rap, how that all started, do you know what kills me the most? People think that's very, very masculine, but to me, that kind of starts off this whole this whole feminine ideology. From this kind of gives me a gateway. And the reason why I say it's a gateway is because if you look at how they were dressed, they had the pants sagging, they had their trousers sagging. Now, trousers sagging back in the day was only for one reason, and that was for people in the prison. That was like a marker of a tag. So that was nothing that was meant to be straight. That was always something that was some prison stuff that was on something which we know what that was about. But again, it got infused in the culture. So guess what now it was? It was you had your trousers hanging down low. That was a sign of you being hard. You were tough. But actually, that was not the case. And you see how these things get played out in front of us. They get twisted and turned and contorted into something that it never was. And then when you look at the evolution of the culture, again, by a lot of these music, a lot of these artists acting, then all of a sudden, when I see these things happen, I'm like, bro, I see exactly the evolution. It's just every single thing that we're seeing right now is just prepping and preparing all of us for things like this to keep going on and things like this to be seen. I'm like, again, I need to understand, how did we let this happen? I need to understand, how is it possible that we have come this far? And it's not even that it's that long in time. And people talk about, oh, you don't like it when men dress well and men dress in these certain ways. And because obviously they had this thing called metrosexuality beforehand, where it was quote unquote straight men with taste. I'm like, no, it's not that. Men in history, men in the past have always, look pretty much sharp. They're always looking sharp. I remember back in the day, my uncles and my grandma was talking about polishing your shoes, making sure you're looking sharp, making sure your hair was trimmed, even though I hated that, but make sure your hair was trimmed. So looking neat and tidy and sharp as a man was always something that was there. But this is different. This is not that. So that ideology that, dressing well and dressing in a certain way makes you feminine is BS. As a matter of fact, the culture of dressing as a man has diminished. It's regressed, not progressed. The men of yesterday were wearing suits. I remember looking at old historical pictures of men and how they were dressed. They were in suits. They weren't. Everything was nicely pressed. Everything was nicely tailored. They weren't looking like we are nowadays. So I don't want to hear that mess about, guys are trying to up their fashion sense. That's not what this is. This is something completely different. And this is what I really want to get your input on. I've put the link in the chat because I don't want this to be no long thing, but I'm really, really just, I don't know what to make of this. I'm seriously don't. And again, I have to say this as a disclaimer. I am not against anybody who is of that ilk. But what I have an issue with, and I'm going to say it, just be clear as day. I have an issue of heterosexual males putting this out as this is the standard of masculinity. I have a problem with that. That is not what I want to see represented. And that is not what I want to see represented as masculinity. Again, we can put, it's not about a race thing at all, because this is not just black men. Harry Styles, that's the guy I'm looking for. If you looked at, it was a few weeks ago where this caused a bit of a stir in which people, even women were tweeting, we have basically have the men gone. Why aren't men acting like men? I know it sounds, oh, here we go again, but it's just the truth. Where are they gone? What has happened? And again, I'm not saying that men don't have ranges of what's accepted as being a male, but we know what exactly that line is. And this line has been crossed. And this is just further examples of the lines are skewed, they're torn up, they're backwards, everything is there. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Before I go to you, Eunice, I'm just gonna say what's up to chat, because I appreciate people have come in the midst of my soliloquy. So Skittles Man Reloaded, what's up? Thanks as always. Yes, please get the likes up, people. So if you are new to the channel, please subscribe, and everyone else, please hit that like button. Appreciate you. Chatting of podcast, yo, welcome. Hope you're doing all well. Obviously, Eunice, welcome to yourself. Tash Jeff, yep, absolutely. There is definitely an attack on masculinity. I mean, there was a advert, it was a John Lewis advert, which caused a lot of stir recently, which they had to take down. They tried to pass it off as it's, oh, we took it down because it violated some financial conduct rules on like home insurance. But it was an advert on home insurance, and it was this young boy who clearly had an identity complex, let's just call it that way, and he was just trashing the home, and it was just so ridiculous, and it was clearly a woke agenda to try and brainwash the youth. And I'm like, it's not even just grown men that it's happening to, it's young kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is just ridiculous. But there is definitely an attack on masculinity, there's no question about it.
Yeah.
And social podcast evening, the Duke, welcome. But yeah, anyway, so I could keep going on because there's so many things I want to talk about. Well, there's so many things I could go with this. But Eunice, what are your thoughts on the attack on masculinity? Do you see what I'm saying? Is it just me?
No, I think that I have noticed it for quite a while now, but particularly the last 19 months during COVID, it became well pronounced to me that masculinity was definitely under attack. And that, I remember seeing, quite recently, I heard there was a black guy who happened to be gay, and he was upset that he wasn't on the front page of a magazine wearing a dress or something like that. And he was, upset the fact that, Harry Styles was on the front page, and that's why he was he was upset and all that. But
really,
I think
he was upset because he wasn't on the front cover of a magazine wearing a dress.
Yeah, or something like that. That's what I heard. But apparently, it's quite strange, most guys wouldn't be wearing a dress, wouldn't be wearing women's dresses in public. I just can't picture the idea that a man, will wear a woman's dress and heading to, going to work on a casual weekday morning.
The thing is, though, don't you think that going forward, though, there will be, I don't know, 5-10 years in the future, though, that may actually be the new norm? Because this is what it seems like. It's just prepared. Because if they can desensitize you as a human being, that means that when it does happen in reality, you're not going to be as put off, because guess what? There's been so much media just flooded out there. You're going to pretty much think, oh, it's normal. Or when it happens, it's not going to be that much of a big deal.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, who are those people actually, producing those, dresses for men? Or are they women or are they men? That's, if it's a woman, that's a telltale sign for me. If it's, for me, it screams out the fact that, a man has to wear, a dress or have a handbag or something like that in order to show women that they're not, a threat to them, stuff like that, and that they could keep themselves in check, whatever, whatever, interpretation that could be and all that, from their point of view. But I think that, from a woman, but I think that a person could see it as a way to essentially policing the masculinity of men in which they perceive to be threatening.
Yeah, but so that's a good point, actually. So you're saying, in order to, again, this is all part of this whole toxic masculinity, to neuter men, they have to feminize men in such a way that it makes men less threatening.
Yeah, less threatening. So
that's an interesting take. That's an interesting take.
So essentially, for the last 10 years or so, you see, large amount of men essentially being emasculated. Essentially, the traditional gender roles now has been, reversed 180.
No, I agree. And the things what kills me the most is, and I would love to ask a woman opinion on this, is what would you see more threatening? Would you see a man who looks like a woman in a pure a skirt, heels, a handbag? Because again, if you look at the picture of the thumbnail, and by the way, this is actually just in general now. Men have pretty much got man bags now. I mean, this is what it is. I mean, he had a pink purse or pink handbag or whatever it was, around, obviously wearing it as part of the front cover. And I'm thinking to myself, it's not just the big things that you can see, it's everything else. Now, he wasn't wearing high heels, but even his hair was looking like a woman's hair. You see what I'm saying? It's not just for example, Scottish people, the kilts, that's an example of where you could say it's still seen as masculine to wear a kilt, but they're not wearing long hair like a woman. They're not got these bags like a woman. You know what I mean? They still maintain their masculinity, at least in their culture. But even though you could argue what's been classed of, they're wearing skirts. But if you look at what they're doing, it's not just the skirt, it's everything else as well to make it go along with this is a woman. You know what I mean? It's not just a skirt and everything and something else. It's long hair, it's the earrings, it's the even how they look when they're posing, look like a woman. I mean, it's everything. But no, it's just is that the only way how we can make men less threatening? Because apparently all these men out here are just tearing up things. All these men out here are just, ready to just attack women. It's BS.
Yeah, and to be fair, right, I won't be surprised if the individuals that actually produce it, have a view that men have to be policed in a way, to prevent them becoming threatening. And all that. They have to be controlled and stuff like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case and all that. But I do think that, particularly in the feminist movement, there's a large amount of feminists, so-called feminists, that want to actually essentially, demolish, the image of masculinity, particularly in the West.
No, I agree. And it's really scary when you see these things out in how it takes center stage, because it's not just it's in everything now. Because do you know how if you are these are young kids now. If young kids just decide, oh, I want to be a woman for whatever reason, they could have seen this advert, they could have seen whatever advert, they could have seen some other friends saying I want to be a woman. What they're now doing is instead of saying, look, that's just a phase, you'll get over it. Like most people have phases. I want to be a fairy, or I want to be an astronaut. I want to be whatever. People have phases and then they'll grow out of it. But with these kids, with all this agenda, with all this attack, they're not only allowing it to happen, but they're giving it life by giving them puberty blockers. And think about it. You're giving puberty blockers to kids who aren't even old enough to understand exactly what's going on for the most part. And it's causing issues. And this is what's happening. It's in everything. It's in the culture, the mainstream, it's in politics. It's just like, bro, do you not see what's going on here? And it's caused, and with puberty blockers, the damage, the untold damage that you're causing. And again, this is on both sides of the fences. The untold damage that you're causing by giving these people puberty blockers, it's going to damage their psyche, because a lot of them have mental health issues. It's going to damage their bodies physically, especially on the women's side, because the women who want to go over to the other side, there's some untold side effects where some of them may not be able to have kids anymore. And think about it. If this is just a phase and you've hooked these kids onto this stupidity because you're not telling them, look, this is what men do, this is what women do. It is. Someone said in the chat, social, I agree. It is child abuse. 100% child abuse. And this is what I'm seeing right now. This just is abuse. I mean, that image is abuse on my eyes, number one, but this is a form of abuse. Now, we're too PC nowadays where we can't really call it what it is. And it's no longer becoming just that phase or that nuisance. It's becoming something bigger than that. I mean, there's a question I was going to ask you, Ozzy, and feel free not to. But let me ask you, do you have any kids? Do you have any children?
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Okay. Now, if you did have kids, would you be kind of frightened to let these kids be exposed to these kind of images?
Yeah, I would actually. I'll probably be concerned.
What if your child came to you and said that I want to transition to the other side? Would you be? How would you deal with that? Because that's one of the things which kind of just makes me just think, flipping heck. It's something I never really had a thought of think about growing up until now. It's just, if I had kids, these are kind of things you have to really consider. And it's crazy saying it, but I don't know how I don't know how I would even deal with it. I mean, it's just, but these are kind of conversations when we talk about the attack on masculinity, which if you had a son, a child, and again, the attacks on the masculinity is attacking everything. And now he says, I want to be a woman, or I feel like I'm no longer a man. It's like, how would you, obviously deep question, Tor, but how would you receive that?
That's a very good question.
Again, feel free not to answer, or feel free to,
Yeah,
but I just want
but
to know
like,
whether it's just me with that kind of thinking pattern.
I haven't been in that type of position. I can't imagine, particularly if there's a parent going through that, situation or that, in terms of how he could approach it. How he could approach that situation, efficiently and effectively, in terms of, resolving, um, the issue pertaining to, their child and all that. But I think it's important for them to be supportive for their child because they're the parent. But I
Good.
think that,
Yep. So good. Good.
but I think that that topic itself, you know, I think that question is a very delicate question because we have to answer that question in a manner that is satisfactory.
Now,
That is deemed satisfactory. You know, because otherwise, that you're going to be, you're going to be, we are going to be in trouble, then, right?
well, I hear you. I
Yeah,
hear you when you said it's because you're right. It is a sensitive topic, but also I'm gonna say this. The reason why it's a sensitive topic is because they're now part of a protected group.
yeah,
And a lot of the reason why it's sensitive is because when we see certain things, we no longer allowed to say, and this is just in general now, just in general,
mm,
that is not right. That is not right. That is wrong. That is right. That is wrong. Now, again, this topic is very sensitive just because people are going to say, well, what if somebody believes they are in the wrong body? What if someone believes they are who they are, a different gender? I completely understand that. But the mere fact that you would tell me that you are a different gender, I would find that for me personally difficult to take. I would find it difficult to take. Now, again, everyone's different. I get that, but I would find that completely difficult. And just seeing how the trends have been going with the indoctrination, and I even think it's in some of the foods. I know I'm going a bit conspiracy theory, but I even think it's in some of the foods where I've been reading some of the processed foods, some of the effects it has on your body. Not even talk about physical body in terms of getting fat and that kind of stuff, but even your mood, your mindset, your ability to think, but also what you actually think. There's so many things which I do believe is just an attack, whether it's knowingly or unknowingly. And I just think it's just this just hotbed. But you're right, Ozzy. You are right. It's a sensitive topic, and I don't want to put anyone in some sort of deep stuff. But it's one of those things where it's just, for me, when I'm looking at where things are heading, that's the kind of things which we're seeing more and more often. And I'm thinking to myself, what's happened to society with this happening more and more often? Is it because people are now more open, we're just more open with things, or is there seriously an issue here that we're just not absolutely tackling? Because I'm just like, are we telling me all these people in previous lives were this confused about what's a man, what's a woman?
yeah. you know I that when I look at the advertisement of that, young child and all that, young, yeah, that little boy who's dressed up as who's wearing a dress and all
I talk about the John
that
Lewis ad, or you
the
talking about?
advertisement.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm just thinking to myself, I can't remember when I was the same age as him back in the 2000s, like seeing it on TV. It was non-existent. yeah, of course you might see, men dressing up, you know, wearing makeup and, wearing dress and all that for TV advertising, something like that. But you would never see a child like that.
No,
You would never
I
see it.
agree. I agree. You wouldn't. Now, I'll say this though. I'll say this, and this is going to come down to cultural issues here. So bear with me a second, but I'm going to say something here because I mean, it's going to sound whatever, but I don't care at the moment. One thing when I was growing up, one thing which we used to flippantly say is stuff like that. We would say that's just white people shit. And the reason why I say that is because if anyone's been to pantomime as a young person or just in general, you go to pantomime. What was interesting to me is because white people love pantomime. I've just called it what it is. The dame, only female in the pantomime was a man dressed as a woman. Now, for some odd reason, white people giggle at that kind of stuff. They even to this day, when you see a group of normally white boys when they're on the lash, when they're going out, you see a white boy dressed as a woman. I don't know what that is. I always put that down to that's just some white boy shit because I always used to see that. I don't know what a stag do when they're going on a piss up. You'd always just see, and they used to laugh so hard. It's like it was so funny seeing a man dressed as a woman. And even as a youngster, I never understood that concept. It never was in my ingrained culture to have grown men at any point, at any time, even if they weren't, these would be straight guys. I'm telling you, straight guys. But for some odd reason, whatever time of the year it was, they would find it funny to dress as a woman. And I saw it when it comes to pantomime. I saw it when it comes to when it's on a night out. I don't know if you've ever seen it yourself, but I always used to put that down to this is just a cultural trait. But now I'm just like, nah, is it because we're now become westernized, it's spreading? But because historically, a lot of black nations, black countries, we don't like that kind of stuff. But it don't even matter now. If you're in the Western world, you just boom, it's open season. So I don't know whether that's a historical cultural issue which we've just put. Oh, that's well for me. That's just their kind of people. That's what they did. That's what they do. But I'm like, no. This is bigger now, man, because this is affecting everyone. But again, I'm saying there's something in the waters. But yeah, have you seen that kind of stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, well, what I could say is that, obviously you probably see, men, certain, you would probably see, for instance, you could have, a group of friends going to stag do. Only one of the guys essentially going to be wearing, women's clothing and all that. So obviously they're probably doing it for a laugh.
Yeah, but why? That's the question, isn't it? Why
I
would
don't
that
know,
be something you
perhaps,
find funny? See
entertainment.
how
Yeah.
you see how crazy that sounds. But sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, they're probably doing it for entertainment purposes and stuff like that. But yeah, so particularly if you in African countries or or in the Caribbean countries, it's very non-existent pertaining to men that dress up like women, because masculinity is actually taken seriously, and yeah. So I remember one time I was watching the BBC. I was watching a documentary with my family one time back in 2000, and apparently there was a I think in the the Kenyan group, is it Masala tribe in Kenya? Yeah, I believe so.
Not too
Yeah,
sure.
the Masala tribe in Kenya, in which there was a when it comes to, let's just say, circumcision, the male can't show any weakness whatsoever. If he shows weakness, then he's going to be killed or something like that. And it's really insane. And it goes to show you that they really take masculinity extremely serious. You know, and by not crying or stuff like that. It's a sense of masculinity. For me, yeah, like a lot of people say, "Oh, Ozzy, you sound like a woman," stuff like that. But for me, like, I'm a soft-spoken person, but I'm a masculine guy that, I could get injured. I could, I suffered, very serious injury. You know, I was playing football one time, and the groin muscle, I pulled it. I actually pulled the groin muscle literally on the top of my thigh muscle, like literally on the groin, like just under my pelvis area. And I literally, pulled that muscle, and I was on the floor, completely on the floor. But people in football, they were probably crying and all that, you know.
That's true.
I
No,
wasn't.
it would be, yeah.
I was in serious pain, but I didn't cry and all that, That's the one thing I realized, no matter, what injury I suffered, I never cry.
No, I hear you, and I think this is the problem, isn't it? Where what they've tried to do is because you could say that's too far away. Men don't cry. Men don't share their feelings.
Yeah.
Because we're now saying that's too harsh, but now it's like we've gone all like we've done a 180. We've gone all the way to the other side now because I suppose this is the trade-off for freedom. So now we talk about being free in the West. We talk about we can pretty much do what we want, given reason, obviously not breaking no laws and all that kind of other stuff. Now it becomes a case of, unfortunately, the things which we did think, in my opinion, was sensible traits, which were that's what a man is, that's what a woman is, that's what a man wears, that's what a woman wears. This is how a man acts, that's how a woman acts. Again, granted, there's always a little bit of cross in between. Don't get me wrong. But for the most part, we know what a man looks like, sounds like, all that kind of good stuff. We know a woman like, sounds like, good stuff. But now it's just like, no, we don't. Even that itself is in question. So much so that these types of situations here are just given a free ride. Now, again, a lot of it's because they're protected. I'm like, but it's just, man, the culture itself is getting to a stage where, I don't know, man, because we've gone from a stage where now, we're too masculine. Now we need to get to a stage now where this is acceptable. This is the new face of masculinity. This is what we're saying for a man to be wearing a dress, high heels. But again, they've gone full-blooded now. So it's just like, they've gone all the way around. So not only can they, this is the funniest thing, not only can they actually dress like a woman, but they can just say I'm a woman and everyone has to believe it. You are a woman. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
And it's part of the identity politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, but when you're looking at the gender stuff, when you're looking at the race stuff, when you're looking at sexuality stuff, when you're looking at the whole thing, it's just identity politics. And for the last 19 months, it literally blew open. You had a COVID pandemic, in which you had, actually a lot of people didn't realize or didn't have any idea those issues were quite, quite common and all that. But for the last 19 months and all that, there's a sense that because of it has been blown up on people, on essentially in front of people's faces, they starting to noticing it, more often, particularly in TV advertisements. For some reason, particularly in TV advertisements, there's a sense that I've been watching, TV and stuff like that, which I don't usually do, but there's a sense that the TV's, the advertisements, they tend to have, mixed race relationships.
Yeah, I'm seeing. There's a load of agenda stuff, agendas that's been going on, and the thing is, there are some things which I'm going to say this are harmless. So there's some, I wouldn't call it agendas, but there's some things like, for example, oh my God, a lot of people complain, oh my God, there's another black family. Oh my God, there's a black family. It's like, okay, there are black families. You know what I mean? Oh my God, there's too many black people. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. There are things which are just like, hold on a second. There are black people who exist in the UK. Yes. There's more than one black family. Yes. Whereas this kind of stuff, this is, for me, is different. This is a pure agenda of, I'm going to say it, I'm going to have to say it, not biologically natural state of being. And now this is this is how I see it. So it is what it is. But a situation which defies nature is being put up as the new norm. That's the difference. You can't change the fact that you're black. You can't change the fact that you are white. You can't change the fact that you're tall. You can't change the fact that you're born into that family. You can't change that. It just is what it is. Your voice is your voice. You are who you are. But there's certain things here where I'm just thinking to myself, no, that ain't it. That ain't it. So I get what you're saying. There are agendas, and it's the problem. There's too many agendas. There's too many agendas.
But there's a war on the war in reality, right?
Yeah.
If you think about it, obviously, a person, you in the UK probably think, as probably as is obviously going to make the reasonable, conclusion that of course there are mixed race, relationships in the UK and so on and so forth. But if that person keeps seeing it over and over again, nearly almost every advertisement, he's going to, develop a picture that is not a reality. That there's not, there isn't, mixed
That's fair. That's
relationships
fair.
in the UK is very, very small. Percentage-wise, a lot of relationships are, are homogenous.
Homogenous. Yeah. No, you're right. You're right.
And the fact that you could have, not just the mixed race relationships, but also, the little boy that was wearing a dress and all that. Not every little boy wears dresses. And I think that in itself, what it really tells me is that not only the companies are out of touch with potential customers, but they also are out of touch with reality. I think the reason why John Lewis actually took it off was because it could affect their bottom line. That's what I think.
Oh yeah, they made up a I call it a BS story about the reason why they did it is because of it breached I want to say financial, is it conduct authority, FCA rules. But you're right, it was because the backlash they received, they're going to get, obviously cancel culture. They're afraid that they were going to lose a lot of business. And to be fair, sometimes you're thinking, rightfully so. But I want to question you on that reality part, because you are right in the sense where they're not keeping in line with reality. In reality, most boys aren't wearing dresses. 100% agreed. In reality, we don't see as many mixed race couples. 100% agreed. But don't you see that as them trying to make the new reality? Because ever since, I don't know what's happened, but ever since, just say a few years back, we understand that there are people who, were of that persuasion. But now it's not just that. It's everything on their dog. It's like, when did this non-binary, trans-binary, when did this cis this, cis that, when did this take place? It's now, I believe a lot of these things, when it preps you for a boom where even though you're right, it's not everyone, but then all of a sudden it's like, it seems like there's just overnight sprinkling of everyone's now the new thing. I don't know if it's just a fashion trend, but there's serious world life consequences that take off the back of it, where I'm just like, while you're right, statistically seem to be a small number, but just the growth is what's killing me in terms of trajectory, in terms of what we're going to see going forward. Because again, we mentioned about fashion. Beforehand, it was baggy jeans. That was the sign of masculinity, baggy jeans. Now it's gone to skinny jeans. Now, if you look at skinny jeans, you look at that trend. So many men I saw wearing skinny jeans, even still to this day, to be fair. It's just like, it's the growth of how it gets ingrained. It's like a psychological warfare someone put in the chat. Controversial, but true. 100% true. It's like, while statistically it may not actually be that high, it's just, I swear, it creates like a wave. And that's what I feel like it's doing, is preparing for these waves to take place. And they don't want to be on first on the wave and that kind of other stuff. It just seems to me like you're right into this. It's not reality, but then it's like, or equally, they help shape reality. They help shape the culture, where it become music, film, TV. They help shape it. You see what I mean?
I think the little Nas, is that his rapper name, the one from Tennessee?
Yep.
Yeah, apparently he was pictured being pregnant and all that, which was insane. So now what you're talking about now is there's also war on womanhood as well, and motherhood.
True.
And and to be honest, like, it's always, but it's happened in the West, though. That's what I've noticed, particularly in English-speaking countries. You don't see it in Germany or Holland, or it's mostly in English-speaking countries. Yeah, it might, it could have. I'm not sure whether or not Australia and New Zealand has been affected, but I think they probably are probably seeing, seeing the, are probably seeing the symptoms. Yeah, probably have mild symptoms pertaining to what we are, seeing in the US, Canada, or the UK.
There are a lot of things I see in
Yeah.
Australia which they're trying to push back on a lot of this woke agenda. There's a lot of things haven't existed over in Australia. As to the levels, I don't know, but I do know that. I mean, I follow Sky's News Australia, and one of the there was a situation in the school where the boys, again, these were like, I think they were 14-year-old boys, were told to stand up in front of the girls and apologize for being a man. These are like 14-year-old boys who have done nothing wrong in life, but they had to apologize to the women or the girls in the school for all these apparent crimes that were made against basically women. And these were boys who don't know anything about anything right now.
It's
They just
psychologically damaging.
exactly. And again,
and
but that's the thing. That's how deep this the rabbit hole goes.
Not only is it psychological damaging, but it's also it's not that type of identity politics will not only will psychologically damage men and all that, but will also create resentment.
When you say resentment, from whom? From women or from
I mean,
men?
that's the reaction is going to be, though. If you think about it, if you demonize men and all that, then men obviously going to create some type of resentment. For instance, if women are being treated better than men, and men are being discriminated against, men will probably and that is wrong, and that obviously that is wrong and all that, totally wrong. But certain men are going to form disdain for women.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it right now, and I think even women are resenting what's going on. Even themselves, even women are like, we don't like this. Again, they're being silenced. So even women are resenting that what's going on with men and how they want men to be men. And I suppose you could argue because men are now becoming feminized, women are becoming masculine. They're, like you said, women are gender role swap. So I've definitely seen that, no doubt. Medora, welcome. I think it's the first time I've seen you on the show, or at least up on here. I don't know if you've been listening. Welcome, and what are your thoughts on the situation?
Oh yeah, it's interesting. Hello, good evening, everybody. How you doing?
Evening, good man, good.
Right.
Good evening.
This topic has always irked me and all that. Whenever I used to see this kind of situation, um, men in feminine dress and all that, I don't know. Maybe it's something else. Especially when you see it in fashion. Especially, you understand? If you go to what you call it, ASOS or something, the type of representation they have for what men are supposed to wear and all that stuff. And especially a lot of the black male models as well. When you see them, it's just some baggy, raggedy stuff that nobody's gonna wear, even if it's not something that's feminine. It's always some kind of clownish kind of shit that nobody will wear. Why do you think that is?
I don't even know. I hear what you're saying as well. But apparently they call it fashion. This is the thing, isn't it? When it comes to fashion,
No.
apparently you can get away with so many things and call it fashion.
No, but look, listen to this, right? You will go to a fashion site. Like, I don't want to be a bit identity politics, and all that kind of stuff. You will go to a fashion site and you will look at what people are wearing. But whenever it comes to the black men, they wear something that seems clownish. You understand what I mean? And then you come to this situation, you will not find most of the time you will not find an English fella wearing that stuff that you just showed us here in that amount of feminine. It's always they always trying to reshape I don't like to say black, but it's always trying to reshape that.
I don't know. I don't know if you heard this, but I was talking about growing up. I saw this as white culture because I was talking about. I don't know where you are at the moment, but in the UK, there's a massive pantomime culture. It's white British culture, and historically, men used to dress up as women. So this was always something that took place. I'm telling you, men dressed up as women to play a role as a woman instead of actually just hiring a woman because of laws back in the day. Women couldn't act, but even still, men used to love that kind of stuff. And even on nights out, I see regularly men dressed up as women. So I hear what you're saying with it seems like a black agenda. I think that's more now. But I've always saw this growing up. I was like, man, that's some white boy shit. That's always how I phrased it. But now I'm completely looking at it differently now. I'm like, no. This is everyone. Everyone's included. So
what's the likelihood that this will permeate the younger generation? Like, come on. Well, I mean, realizing this, what's the likelihood? But I see your analogy with how the skinny jeans situation took over completely, because I did not expect that to catch on that well.
Well, in answer to your question then, very quickly, because social media now, the thing is, social media has made everything 10 times as powerful. So beforehand, you could get some traction, but now everyone's talking about like what happened with Lil Nas X, and everyone's talking about what happened with Harry Styles. Everyone's talking about people wearing dresses. It goes around the world so quickly now. So
you know,
it's catch on twice as quick or 10 times as quick as before.
You know, one thing that is a problem. Let me put it in this way: men are not meant to be beautiful. You understand what I mean? Men are not meant to be beautiful. The body of men is created for fighting and working. For fighting and working, farming, fighting, working. It's a body to utilize for warfare. You understand what I mean? For labor. That's the body of a man. So when you start to tell a man that he's beautiful and he's pretty, you understand what I mean? Then the man goes, because to be beautiful, it's kind of a feminine trait. You understand me? To be beautiful, to seek for beauty, prettiness, it's a feminine trait. So when a man has been told he's beautiful, he seeks more ways to make himself beautiful. And he continues to go down the feminine route. Like Harry Styles. He didn't start off like that, but he's just gone down I just can't believe it. Even that Rihanna's news, A$AP Rocky, straight gangster. You know what I mean? He's been told he was beautiful, and now all you see is him doing some fucking shit.
No, good example.
You know what I mean? So whenever a man has been told he's beautiful, the mentality shifts into wanting to look more beautiful, because and he starts doing all these fucked up feminine. Sorry.
No, I hear you. But the thing is, even that word beautiful, you would never call a guy that. It's like, for me, even though it's not a woman's word, that's a feminine word.
Yeah.
For a guy, it always should be handsome.
Yeah.
If you're a man, you call it handsome. If you're a woman, it's beautiful. And you're right. If you call a man beautiful, he automatically, there's something in the brain that says, I need to now, again, like you said, almost act like a woman. I need to be more beautiful. And that's feminine. You know what I mean? And you can see how the evolution is where, no, men are supposed to be tough, rugged, handsome. That's men, rugged. They're the words, harsher, tougher words. I'm not saying that men don't look good, but you're right. Men aren't made to be looking good. Women are supposed to be the beauty objects. That's what women are there for. As much as they like it, that's what you're there for.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's what affects some of the mentality of these guys that are told that they are pretty or something. And then I didn't want to say something else.
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
I can't say that. It's just too fucked up. But you get to see the majority of the time, right? These beautiful models or something like that. That's what it produces. I don't know about Lil Nas X. Do you think that one will catch on? Come on, man. That is too much.
I don't think it'll go that far, but you see how things are slowly slipping to get to that stage. So some things that become too controversial. Oh, no. But it opens the floodgates to other things to slip through the net. And now we're not going to be as outraged. We're not going to be as much, that's not that bad. So you see how it works. They give you something that's very, very outrageous. You're going to be like, no. But it means you desensitize, like violence. There was people talk about violence. And that's why we didn't want kids. They had like a watershed. It was like 9 o'clock where kids weren't allowed to show certain violent scenes, sexual violent scenes until after a certain time, because kids were supposed to be in bed. We didn't want them desensitized early enough because it'll mess them up. This is what's going on with desensitizing kids. And so, it will catch on. It depends on how quickly it does, but it will, because social media is blowing. So Yeah.
Wow. It's scary. It's scary. What brought on this topic? What spurred this topic for you or something?
Okay, so it was a couple of things. So I was big up to Falcon Black. I was watching his video talking about, he was going through the men shouldn't be wearing earrings, and he was going through the process. And this also came up. I don't know how it did, but this, and then I've been seeing Lewis Hamilton. You know who Lewis Hamilton is?
Yeah, I know who Lewis Hamilton is. Yes.
Right. Let me. You know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna share something. I'm gonna share something. Because it was these two things which just made me think, oh my days. It had to be brought up. Right, I'm just sharing my screen right now. But this is Lewis Hamilton. Just type in Lewis Hamilton and fashion, and you look at the things that he wears. Can you see my screen? Just
Right.
This is a guy who is a multi-millionaire, probably be a billionaire by the time he's retired. And this is the kind of clothes that he wears. And he, as far as I'm aware, he's straight. But he's saying this is what they call fashion. And look at how he looks, look at how he dresses, look at the hair, look at his poses. I don't know who this person who's next to, but look at him. Do you not see this kind of stuff? And it's just like, even stuff like this. I mean, now, I know people in the fashion industry wear these ridiculous outfits, but do you not see this kind of stuff that I'm just like, I had to do a stream on it because it was just like, bro, what is going on? And yeah, it's just like, it starts off with earrings, how earrings were seen as feminine. That's now normal. Even getting your ear pierced, that was a feminine thing. Men did it. Getting your tongue pierced, another feminine thing. Men are now doing it. Everything is just the new normal. We don't know what a man is. We don't know what a woman is, because guess what? We have now desensitized everyone to say that is what's acceptable. And now we're like, oh, my days wearing a skirt. People can say that's nothing. People can say that's nothing. Everyone wears skirts. That's what's gonna happen. That's what's gonna happen.
I think they're gonna find it very hard to wear skirts in the fucking winter, mate. They'll
be wearing tights next. They'll be wearing tights or pantyhose. I guarantee it.
Oh my fucking god! Oh my fucking god!
Watch it here. The next thing, like you said, in the summertime, in the wintertime, they'll be wearing tights, everything, skin tights.
I think they're already doing it, innit? Leg warmers or something, some kind of.
Oh, you know, yeah. You already know. Actually, in football, they actually do wear tights. You know, in football, they actually wear it as well. So don't worry about it. They got something for it.
Right. That's messed up. That Lewis Hamilton, man, he used to be a straight fella, bro. You understand? Now he's just completely confused, and that's why I use the word confused. And Lil Nas X is the most revolting fella that I ever seen on media out there and all that stuff. But these kind of things, they must be kept at the fringes, innit? People must be made aware that there's some things that are made for entertainment, and then there's some things that you just don't do, you know? Like there's certain music that you listen to that's just for you, and then there's music that's just general for everyday use for the public. So that must be made aware for the youths coming, that they just can't. Then you'll have to go. You're restricting people's freedom to do whatever they want. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, because again now, because the LGBTQ plus community is so big and so politically strong, what we're doing now is, if a young boy was to say, "I want to become a woman," we're going to give that boy puberty blockers, and we're going to help that boy transition into womanhood. It's no longer becoming, that's just something that that's just entertainment. Now it's the case where we cannot say anything other than that's acceptable. Otherwise, you are in the wrong. You are a bigot. You are against the LGBTQ community. You don't know what it's like. That's what's going to take place. That's what's happening right now. And you're right. I think part of the problem though is the family unit's destroyed as it is, really, especially in like the Western Black community. So someone put a comment on here: who is shaping Black male masculinity? That's the question, because clearly father figures either aren't doing a good enough job, or they're not in the community, or not in the household due to whatever reason. But who is shaping it? Who is shaping Black male masculinity? And unfortunately, it's the media. The media takes over like crazy. Music, film, their favorite artists, their favorite celebrities, their favorite influencers on YouTube, on Instagram. That's who's shaping not even just a generation. Whole community has been shaped around by media.
I suppose you, as a person who is a bit more conscious of you looking at this, you don't think that's gonna affect you and you probably like to impart some good knowledge, but you don't know how much it affects other kids, and then it affects the other kids, and then it affects your kids, and then you know what I mean. So I think that's why we get lenient with this, and we don't have a strong standpoint. You understand? And that's how it seeps in, maybe.
No, I think you're right, because again, growing when I was younger, there's certain things which you did, I'll get beats by it, whooped. There was a hard line. There's like there was a strong structure in place. Whooped by my mother, whooped by grandparents. No, that wouldn't fly. But nowadays,
what do you think when
they don't do nothing? These women, they're just messing them up. That's what they're doing. Honestly, this is crazy. A lot of these parents are just messing up the kids. It just is what it is.
What do you think when someone wears that earring with a cross on it? You know the earring with a cross, right? With a crucifix.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, that is saying something.
Now, there's two ways I used to take that, because I used to be kind of heavy on some esoteric stuff. So I used to take that a bit religiously wrong, but I just see it as just wrong anyway. But again, for example, do you have your ears pierced or anything?
No, nah.
Okay. Do you have anything pierced, like your nose ring or tongue pierced?
No, none of that. Nah.
Now, here's the thing. I think because you're mature, I mean, I thought it helps that I'm probably now maturer, but as a young kid, that's the problem I have. The mature adults, I kind of almost like saying they're set in their ways. It's the youth. It's the youth I'm scared for, because they're the ones seeing this as the new norm. They're seeing their reality shaped through what they're seeing through their eyes. And it's like what we're showing them shouldn't be a reflection, in my opinion, of what masculinity is about. But they're seeing it that way. And then they're challenging me saying, oh, no, that's not right. A man can wear a dress. I'm like, no. But that's the problem.
No, I'll say I'm kind of guilty of this situation. Like there's an artist that I like, right? This artist, many people find him very questionable, right? But I fucking love his music. You know what I mean? I love his music.
That is a very valid point. I want to do a stream about how we I won't say secretly, how we actually endorse these types of people because we support their music or their films.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Like for instance, Young Thug.
Oh my days! You pick like the gayest rapper alive, bro. Jesus mercy. I'm not for it, right? But I love the guy's flow. I love the guy's music. You know what I mean? But I can see, I say, man, sometimes that is too gay, bro. That is too gay. You know what I'm saying? But the music I love. So what am I to do, man? What am I to do? I like the music. Here's what I'm gonna say. Based on his impact, what's worse? I always weigh up the pros and the cons. Does the negatives outweigh the positives? And if it does, put it down. As much as you may love it, put it down, because you're endorsing what he's doing. Because if he sees people supporting him, he's going to continue. Why wouldn't you? Because he gets the support.
Right.
This is it. And the thing is, what you just said there is a tough choice, isn't it? It's very tough. It's like what you believe in most, and you hold dear. Because at the end of the day, we're not in a vacuum, and it's like I get it. You like his music. You can separate his music.
I can separate the two. I can separate the two. Yeah. All these shenanigans don't affect me. But that's what I say. Is it really affected, or is it? I don't know. I don't think. I think he's not. He is. He's flamboyant.
I agree. We will be naive to say that people will do the same. Again, going back to originally when I listened to Falcon Black's video, people pierced their earrings because of the culture around. The music was telling them their favorite artists were doing it, so they did it. Their favorite artists were wearing these clothes, they did it. Their favorite artists were doing this, they did it because they wanted to resemble their favorite artist. Now they were young, so this happens to the youth. As an old person, like I ain't doing that mess, but I may rock with his music.
Of course, no, I get it.
It's the younger people who are most impressionable. They're impressionable.
Yeah. That says a lot as well. In terms of many other things as well. Like for instance, the young people are impressionable, right? Whatever is showed to them in the media, even in terms of like when people are rapping about drill, when they're rapping about drill, shanking a man, stabbing a man, and all that stuff.
Yep.
You know, an adult person will see that and just take the music for what it is. Somebody's telling a story, but to youth, they will like to copy that, and you know, they will like to emulate that kind of behavior. Do you understand what I mean?
100%. And
Right.
us as elders are like, oh, why are you doing that for? I taught you the right way. But they're impressionable. They're seeing their favorite artists doing this and making it out. They're now a multi-million-pound drill artist, rapper. Because keep in mind now, drill's big.
Yeah.
Drill's not underground. It's mainstream pretty much.
Yeah.
So it's like they're seeing their favorite artists do this and becoming mainstream. And matter of fact, they make more money than your mom and your dad combined. So how can you chat to these youngsters and say you shouldn't be doing this, you should be like this person, when their favorite artist makes more money in a week than your parents have ever had in their lifetime, maybe?
Okay, now, well, the way you frame it, it seems like this thing is unstoppable in that case. Then it seems unstoppable the way things are moving. I mean, let me let Ozzy speak because he hasn't said a thing in a while. So
Yeah, Ozzy, you still there? You want to chime in? I'm assuming it's probably just away. But the thing is it unstoppable. I'm gonna say this: the cat's out of the bag. Pandora box has been opened. So while I would say it's not something we can just turn back time, I will say this: it should be controlled. So there needs to be a way where we can really control it and not let stupidity just completely overset us. But there's a fight about this wokeness. So, and this is included about men should be dressed like men, women should be dressed like women. So there's a fight on. The problem is a lot of us are just like probably giving up, or we're really probably not seeing. I don't think we think it's big enough to fight sometimes. I think a lot of us actually think, you know what, it will go away. It's a phase. And I think that's the problem. I think people think it would just go away. But unfortunately, with the way how things are, I think it will be here to stay a lot longer, get worse if we don't do something about it. If we don't talk about it, if we don't, especially educate our youngsters, we have to educate our youth and say, this is the right way to go.
But you know, like sometimes people might say it's good to be progressive in life, but I guess where would you start counting and saying being progressive has gone too far? Then you know, rather being conservative, like where would you say being progressive has gone too far? You understand what I mean? Because that's what people who like to be conservative, that's the arguments they use. They say, oh, this wokeness culture or something like that. This wokeness culture is just gone a bit too far. It's gone that. Don't you think that stifles other? It umbrellas all other progressive movements. I mean, I'm aware some people say like nowadays people are fighting for the actual just cause for progressive movements has been stifled, and now they're doing all these shenanigans. Do you understand what I mean to say?
I do completely understand what you're saying. And here's how I'll answer that question. I agree with progression as long as it doesn't go against nature, biological rules and laws. For example, the earth moves on an axis. It moves to a certain beat. It goes around the sun. It orbits the sun. That's nature. That's what things are supposed to be. Sun up, sun down. There's some things in life. I don't care how progressive you are. A man is a man, a woman is a woman. I don't care what people are saying about gender is a social construct. It is not. It is a biological construct ingrained in millions of evolution, millions of years, depending on what you believe, thousands of years of biological fact that you can't get away from. That's why I say the line is there. Once we mess with biology, nature, I have a problem with it.
Yeah.
Other things I don't have too much of a problem with. But once we mess with nature, that's what I have a problem with. And we are messing with what nature. We know what a man is, we know what a woman is. We're messing with that, and that's where I say the line is.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true. To a certain extent. I mean, if I was to say the same thing, let's say, would you say, although a social construct is raised a biological reality?
So say it again. Did you say race or did you say?
Yeah. Although it's a social construct, it's raised a biological reality.
Well, depending on who you believe. I believe it's not a social construct. There are reasons why race is called race. It's not. It's because we have different traits in other human beings. We're the same species of humans, but certain races have different traits. For example, people of African descent are known to have faster twitch muscles, which is why black people of like West African descent generally, on average, are faster in short sprints than like any other race. I'm not saying that all white people are slow or black people are faster or non-black people. It's just on average. You get what I mean? Swimming, there's been studies showing that we have larger bone density. So swimming, we're not the best swimmers. We can swim, but we're not as fast as like white boys. White boys dominate. There's certain things where race has played a part in terms of our biological makeup. Even look at our face, our broad noses, our hair. Our hair is different. So it's not just a social construct. There's biology behind that. Some people take it too far, but there are things like even illnesses. Certain groups go through certain illnesses that other groups don't go over. That they're the sort of differences that we talk about when it comes to race. They're biological. They're proven. Again, people don't like this because it's so sensitive, but it's just different people. It could be where you were born. It could be whatever, but it is what it is. So I don't agree with that part, but I hear what you're saying. I
get you. That you're through and through naturalist. Then I wanted to see what you're going to say when it comes to that, and when it comes to that, because you say you don't like anything that doesn't go natural. So I posed that question to you to see how you might respond to that one instead.
Yeah, I get you. No. Fair.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's interesting as well. Yeah, I feel the same way. So you're through and through naturalist. What I'm going to say is this debate that's happening all over the internet about men and women, where I am seeing it all over the place. Don't you think it's been pushed too? It's somehow being pushed too far and too ahead. Why is that happening? Like I'm to a point. I'm too desensitized. I'm starting to fall back now and say, you know what? I'm done with this debate. Don't you think there is an agenda to push it so much in pitting men against women? Always men against women. This debate that's going on all over media.
I say this because I didn't want this to descend into the men versus women gender debate. I didn't want this to go into that set. But
we're not going
that can definitely be another live stream, which I'll be happy for you to come and debate all that. So that's a long one, my brother. That's a long one.
All right. It's just everywhere I go, I say, man, something is up about this debate, pitting men against women or something. Listen, there's a song that goes, this might be a man's world, but it would be nothing without a woman. We all need women at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? No matter how much you complain, we need women. You know what I'm saying? Well, anyways, I know you don't want to go there.
I will say this though, and it's on topic, is with this movement of the trans movement now, you've seen situations where it's actually a lot of these hardcore feminists seem to want to emasculate men, but it's actually hurting them because I say hurting them, but maybe not the butch feminists, but it's hurting women because I'm seeing men compete in sports as they're trans women, but they're competing in sports as women, MMA, fighting, and they're clearly biologically different they're structured different than a woman.
Yeah.
And if you see I forgot the name, I forgot who it was, but it was a Eastern European trans woman. Yeah. And oh my gosh, she was up against a woman and it wasn't a fair fight. And the damage that woman took because we've accepted what's not nature, that because you can call yourself something, that makes you are something. And it was horrendous. And I was just like, but I suppose it all goes into, I suppose, your gender war. But just talking about, emasculating men, it's just like you see confusion that's being created where now trans women are replacing actual women. I mean, there are even some guys, I don't know if you're up on this, that some black guys actually prefer trans women as opposed to real women.
I remember my mate was telling me about how this is even affecting, because my mate's more concerned about his own stuff, how it's affecting even the Marvel villains and all that stuff, Marvel characters. They started to involve. When he told me that, I was like, wow. They want to make a gay Superman. I said, a gay Superman? What the heck is that?
No, they do. They're trying to take off every single box, but it's creating the reality. It's messing up the youth more than anything. Again, me as a seasoned, I won't say I'm old, but a seasoned, person who kind of believes he knows a lot, quite a few things. I'm like, listen, I can separate that from, I know what that's about. You can, but the young people, they ain't gonna see it that way.
I mean, it's a tough one. It's a tough one because as you say, the movement is strong and they're politically strong as well. So instead of instead of getting rid of dang it, instead of replacing or changing the heroes that we have already, the characters that we have, could they just make some new gay characters and all that?
That would be better.
Yeah. So you agree with making some new, for instance, they're not changing Batman and making Batman some kind of trans Batman or something like that. They make some new superheroes that are kind of trans or something. Would you agree with that?
I mean, I think you got you in the
background. Yeah, somehow, yeah, somewhat, yeah. Go.
All right, cool. I mean, look, for me, I'd rather they separate. Again, it's even like when it comes to black people. I've said this before. Why can't black people just have their own stuff? Why be the first black Bond? Why be the first black Superman? Create our own stuff so we don't have to worry about them. And that's what I believe. Yeah, in answer to your question, trans people, yeah, they should have their own. We should create their own stuff so it's separate, distinct, and so it doesn't mess with, I suppose, what has been always been known to mankind, that Bond has been a white boy. He's straight as well. The emphasis of James Bond is he has to be straight because of what he's a womanizer. So I just don't see how these kind of things, whether it be Batman or Superman, it don't make no sense. I mean, who's gonna be Lois Lane in some sort of trans or in some sort of gay Superman? Lois Lane. It's like, who wants to see that? I'm just like, bro, mate, there's no chance. But again, that's just me. Whatever. Call me what you want to, but I ain't signing up to see no Superman with no Lois Lane. I'm not seeing that. So if you want to see that, let me know. But I ain't seeing none of that stuff. None of it. So please. Midori, have you sorted out your sound on your end, or you good?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can. I agree with what you were saying. No one wants to see that as a gay Superman and all that. But what I'm saying is, I agree with what you say that why can't black people create their own stuff and all that? I think in the West, as I say, this thing can't be stopped. But if it's in Africa, perhaps there's still a chance. But how long would it take before that starts to permeate even in Africa as well? So in Africa, there's still a chance to have that raw traditional way of being as well. But it's like James. I agree with the thing we say with James Bond as well. Yeah, James Bond is a white Englishman. I particularly don't care about that as well. I don't care. Make your own stuff. You understand? So I think in the West, the trajectory is going. I don't think it can be reversed, mate. You understand me? But I guess the protest can be. Wow, it's a difficult one. Even my mate that was telling me about that, I posed that question. He was telling me, oh, we can't have a gay Batman, we can't have that and all that stuff. I said, all right, fine. So how do you feel about when they complain about you can't change James Bond into black? You understand? I say, how do you feel? Because he loves Idris Elba to be James Bond. I say, I don't want Idris Elba to be James Bond. I want Idris Elba to do his own thing. I know he's good at those kind of roles, but he can do his own thing. I let James Bond be what he was always meant to be, because it also doesn't fit realistically. Historically, when you think about espionage and spies during the Cold War, it was always been that type of white English guys and all that kind of stuff. So if they put another black guy that's going to assassinate an African president, it just doesn't make sense. You understand? So I told him let them have it, but then. So I posed those two questions to him: why he complains about Superman changing into some trans. At the same time, he would see the point of view of the other people that don't want to see James Bond go white. What do you think about that situation?
Sorry, I just had to mute you because I think I'm still hearing myself in your background. So please, Mador, if you can check if YouTube's on in the background.
Yeah, all right. All right. Let me check that and all that stuff. But yeah, yeah, go on.
But yeah, I agree. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. Cool. Back in a sec. But yeah, in answer to that question, yeah, I think people don't understand is when we complain about we want a black this, we want a black that. What's actually happening is we almost realize this. This is actually kind of going off topic, but it's still on this. you ever realize that the LGBTQ community have their Pride Month? Now that's after we've had Black History Month. If you realize a lot of things that take place, we become the gateway to a lot of these things that take place, and we probably don't even realize it because we're so transfixed on what we want. Which I'm not saying we shouldn't care about what we want, but there's certain things which, if you realize what we do, we almost become that gateway for everyone and everything else to then come off the back of it and say, well, if they've had this, we want this, we want that, we want this. So when you talk about Black Bond and Black Superman and Black Batman, pretty much, yeah, that's what's happening now. They're saying, hold on a second, if they've got this, they've got that, now everything's has to have their own version. And it's like, wow, when you see it like that, you can understand why. Look, I say this, create our own stuff. I understand that you want you want to see Idris Elba's, he's your favorite actor, you want to see him as James Bond, you want to see him as this, you want to see him as that. I get all that, but it's just crazy, isn't it? How these things we seem to be the first to take that heat, and everything else comes into focus. Everyone else and everything else comes off the back of it. So this is what I see, and this is where I'm like, oh, and we know in our culture, there's certain things we don't rock with, we don't vibe with. I know there are people who are, but we don't vibe with some of that stuff. But it's just, if you see the trajectory, you see how things get played out. Again, we'll talk about the John Lewis adverts and how you've had Black families. So guess what you need now? You need every persuasion of every single orientation of every single thing. And it's like, what we're fighting for is probably different than what they're fighting for, but they're saying it's all under the same thing, acceptance. But it's like, hold on a second, that's not really what it is. But this is what happens. We then become, I suppose, Fiona, you could say it, trendsetters, if you want to call it that. But it's just more of the same thing. It more than indoctrination. So yeah, it answers your question. 100%. We should have our own separate stuff. I've always preached that we should have our separate things as much as possible, so we can create our own noise from ourselves, and then we don't have to ask anyone for anything. We can do it ourselves. It may be a bit difficult at first, but it is what it is. So yeah. So Ozzy, did you want to say something? I saw you off mute.
Yeah, I totally agree with it. Yeah. So I didn't like the idea that Idris Elba could potentially become, what do you call it, James Bond and all that. Which is a lot of people are upset about it. And
I know.
and I found it to be quite insane. Because I think the people who are upset about it were identitarians.
They were what? Sorry, they were
Identitarians.
what's that?
People that what I've noticed is that identitarians, people that are racially conscious people, something like that.
Right. Okay.
They were upset about the fact that Idris Elba could become James Bond. I didn't mind, to be honest. I always felt neutral about it.
I mean, if it happens, I don't care. But I suppose what I might with it is this: we wouldn't like it. Yeah, it's not about inaccurate. Yeah, it is inaccurate. Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't like it if something happened to one of our characters, even if it's fictional. I know it's fictional, and people say, well, there's no real difference, especially if they want to have a James Bond set in the recent present or the future. There's no reason why it can't be Black. I'm like, I get all that, but we know what it's about. We know what you're trying. You just want your version. You want your Black James Bond to be there. I'm like, but why does it have to be James Bond? I mean, why couldn't it be something completely different? You see what I mean? It's like, what are we fighting for here? Are we fighting for what are we fighting for? So if it happens, I'm not gonna like, oh my days. You know, some people be. I'm not like that. I can equally understand, like, well, we want our own. We always fight about our own shit. So why don't we do that ourselves? I don't know. So that's how I'm with it with that.
Yeah.
But if it's a historic, like Henry VIII, come on now, you can't have a Black Henry VIII.
Yeah, you can't have Rick Ross, playing Henry VIII. That's just mad. First of all, he's not even English. Second of all, he's Black, right? So
yeah, sometimes it's not even nationality. It's just it don't even fit. It doesn't even fit. And we know what happened if Marcus Garvey was played by someone who's not Black. We know what happened if someone like Mandela was played if someone's not Black. I mean, come on. There's certain things I'm like, you do know we open ourselves up for this to take place. Again, talking about we seem to be the gatekeepers. When we do this, we open ourselves up for other things that go right through the same portal that we opened up. And here's the thing is, they get there through quicker, faster than we've ever done. I mean, again, let's take the LGBTQ community, the whole the alphabet community. You know,
Yeah.
in my humble opinion, they have achieved more politically, socially, economically in a shorter period of time than Black folk have amassed. I need to see if I can break down some of the numbers, but I'm telling you, in terms of representation, in terms of economics, in terms of where they sit on the board, I mean, I believe they have taken faster, quicker strides to certain places that we've been crying out for than we have done in many aspects. Maybe not all. And keep in mind that a lot of these things, I'm telling you, they're not more than 20 years old. Sometimes I don't think more than 10 years old, but they're so quick. And they one of the things that we lack is direction, but they seem to have a direction, a way to go, and they go for it. And again, part of the indoctrination, they have the media set in place, they have representation. They're more protected group than we are. I think they're more protected group than Black folk are. But I'm telling you, and their pace of their speed is so quick. And if I guarantee, if it was a fella fall asleep for a year, you come back, something else has changed. They're so quick. They're just so they're so what's the word, determined in regards to what they're trying to do. It's crazy. Whereas we don't seem to have that same determinism or determination, sorry, in regards to what we're about. And it's just like, bro, obviously, you know, if you on that agenda, that's whatever. But it's just, man, when I see these images, when I see this and when I see that, when I see all these sports stars and athletes and entertainers all doing it, it's madness. I mean, I remember Dave Chappelle was talking about how it seemed to be a rite of passage for Black men in the film industry to have to wear a skirt or basically dress up as a woman. He used the example of Will Smith in Wild West. Who else was the example? Martin Lawrence, Big Mama's House. They wanted to get Dave Chappelle wearing a dress. I remember, if I know, the actor Chiwetel Ejiofor. He's the actor who played in 12 Years a Slave. He played in Four Brothers. He played in 2012. He wore a dress and kinky boots. It's like, it's just crazy. It's just crazy how you just see these things. It's like, man, way back then, they was pretty much telling us what was going to happen. And it's like, we just seem to be way off pace, or we just don't think it's going to be that much of a big issue that it's going to amount to anything. But it amounts to, look what's happening right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just insane with that, you know. Yeah, but I just don't get the idea, why would a man wear a dress? No, I just can't get my head around it, to be honest. Yeah, perhaps, you know, he's doing it for a laugh, or perhaps he likes it, but for me, it's not my cup of tea, to be honest, you know, as a heterosexual man. Yeah.
I hear you, but and I'm thinking to myself, if if men are willing to you know, go into the back passage of another man, then what's wearing a skirt?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? You see what I mean? So you see how they go. If you're willing to kind of accept and not bat an eyelid to that kind of stuff, then let's be honest. They could just say, and rightfully so, what's a dress? What's a skirt? What's high heels? What's a purse? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If they're willing to do all that, what's the rest of it about? But the problem is, these are straight men doing it. This is the problem. This is meant to be the new face of, this is what straight men could look like. This is what masculinity can look like. Because this is what they're going to pitch now. Masculinity is not just about, you know, let's just be stereotypical. I don't know, some sort of plumber, electrician, or some sort of guy who's working on an oil rig or something like that, where he's working with his hands. That's stereotyping, isn't it? But now you can be wearing a dress and work on an oil rig. You can be wearing a dress and fix someone's gas leak. You can be wearing a dress and fix someone's pipes. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I can imagine that line. You can wear a dress and fix someone's pipe. I can imagine that actually being a line. But you see what I mean? It's crazy.
But in a way, that's a bit defeative in ways, isn't it? Wearing a dress and being like a plumber or something like that. It's just, you know, it's a health and safety hazard, right?
But it's the point that I'm trying to make is,
Yeah.
that's the new normal masculinity. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
new normal masculinity is, you can wear a dress and be all these things because you're just as much as a man as the next man who doesn't wear those things. That's what they're trying to do.
Yeah. It's just insane, to be honest.
And these are very, very stereotypically masculine roles. These are stereotypical, like, people who work on building sites, people work in the oil rig. These are meant to be, again, mainly like real on that other side of the scope where if you wear anything that's not, PC, they're gonna rip you for it. They're gonna tell you a new one because that's not the, there's a certain vibe that goes with certain roles. There's a certain energy that goes with certain things. Obviously, I'm going way deep with it, but there is truth to it. There's a certain energy that goes with certain roles and certain guys that come off these roles. You don't see a guy who's on an oil rig and is kind of on a building site when he's coming back home. What kind of guy do you think that guy is? He ain't gonna be a guy who's gonna be just some softy kind of guy. That's not really what it is. Let's just be real. But that's what they're gonna try and say, and they're gonna paint it off for that way. And it's like, well, that's where we're gonna see, if they can make that kind of man feminized, then everything else is just everyone else is completely feminine. If they can make that type of man feminine.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the idea of a man, I think, is completely out of touch from reality and all that. But I think people that tend to create that type of image really are people, are people in elite position, are people essentially in high echelon of society and all that, and who are essentially, they're not only are they out of touch reality, but want to create a reality that is comfortable for them, but it wouldn't apply it to their children or their family members, so on and so forth. It's just a way to essentially screw up society. So I'll give you a case in point. I remember hearing I was listening to a podcast, and there was a guy from California who was complaining about San Francisco and how cities, how is it, essentially, how the city is being managed. He touched on, that I think for many years, California, essentially, threw money at, combating homelessness and stuff like that. But in reality, the homelessness in California has increased, and the drug addiction as well. And for those, what I'm trying to say is that, you have those people that, the reason why they throw money and they are very, desensitized, is that it's not affecting them. They don't, their kids are not going to be, they're going to be drug addicts or going to be homeless or anything like that. It's just a differentiation between elites and the general population. The general population, suffers, and they have that, and they tend to use that crazy experiments on the general population. But the elites are in control. We're talking about, city government, how money is being spent, where they live and all that. They don't want people. They don't live in places where people are defecating on the streets. You're not going to have, for instance, in LA, you're not going to have people defecating in what do you call it? Is it Brentwood? Yeah, Brentwood. Beverly Hills.
I said Bel Air. I thought you could say Bel Air, but
Yeah, Bel Air, Beverly Hills, Manhattan Beach, or Malibu. You're not going to have people, taking a dump in there, but you're going to see people taking a dump on the streets of just downtown, near downtown area of LA. For instance, Skid Row, Hollywood Boulevard, maybe, but it would probably be, that person probably get arrested, something like that,
yeah,
But,
I mean, yeah, it's definitely the same like where I'm in my city, where you see a lot of homelessness in certain pockets of places. Again, it's all in the a lot of it will be in the city, the hub of the city, so they can ask for finances and stuff. But when it comes to the nicer areas, you're right, you see a different type of kettle of fish. And there is definitely, I'd say, an agenda which I will not say pushed, but it's definitely endorsed, or in which a lot of we call them the metropolitan elite, normally left-leaning people who, they're like, yeah. They always placate. They always want to say yes, because you know, they know that their people are good. You know, they know that they're taken care of, and whereas you as the peasants, especially over here, I mean, over here, there's just a classless society in the UK. You know this in this nation. It's just a classless society where it's know your place and everyone else is just a peasant. Even when I was looking at a recent story about the have you heard about the Lord Peerage and how these wealthy people were buying the rights to be a lord? And it's just like these aren't situations which normal people can even remotely ascertain. I think it was like 3 million to become a lord, and the Tory government was basically Boris Johnson basically just played it off as nothing. He's not even really addressed the issue. But the reason why is because they endorse this kind of stuff because it's like one rule for you, one rule for ye, one rule for thee. It's like this is how it becomes, and because these issues whatever issues don't affect them when it comes to real life issues, they don't care about it. But they're just busy doing away. They're hedging funds when it comes to the PPE and how that contract was a inside job pretty much. It's like, man, as long as they're good, they're cushy. It don't even matter. And whereas the rest of us are getting left with this indoctrination, the pollution, everything. And it's just like, this is what seems to be the case. Now, they'll probably argue, you know, oh, well, you know, we get affected by these things. But I'm like, I don't know. I'm of the mindset now where I forgot who was saying it. I think it was Thomas Sowell, where we shouldn't be relying on governments really for anything. We should be trying to get governments out of our business as opposed to in our business. And I think there's a lot of times when it comes to this situation, as best as possible, we need to try and get people out of our kids' business, out of our child's lives. We should be manning what they look at, what they listen to as best as we can. Kids will be kids. They will listen and watch anything that they can get their hands on, and parents will never know. That's just something you have to deal with. But when it comes to indoctrination, when it comes to these types of things to maintain what I believe is what the norm should be. Again, there's range is what we call masculine. There are ranges there, but within that norm, within that range, I'm like, as best as possible, we need to control our kids. A lot of people now, what they're doing is they're taking out their kids from normal schools because they're too frightened to send their kids to school because the indoctrination starts at school. And of course, you can't control what happens at school as a parent. So what a lot of parents are doing now, and this is for other reasons as well, but one of the things which I can imagine going forward, this will be one of the biggest reasons, is because they don't want to hear this indoctrination. I don't want my kids indoctrinated with this mess. I'm going to take them out of school, either homeschool them, send them to a supplementary school. I think a lot more people are going to start doing that because they're sick and tired. I send my kids to school so they can learn maths, science, English, yes, history, but at the end of the day, I'm telling my kids to learn something, not this nonsense that's going on right now. So it's just like, man, I'm telling you, it's because the elites and because people can afford to have their own private tutors, their own private schooling, they pretty much can pay to make sure that their teachers teach them exactly what they wanted to teach. Everyone else in normal public schools are left to state schools, left just to fend for themselves. I'm like, no, man. People are taking steps to just try and stop the madness as best as possible.
Yeah, I think during the week, I mean, like last week, you had the results from the Virginia state elections for the governorship. And what it showed me, and what it showed many people, is that parents have power. A lot of parents in Virginia, don't want their kids to be taught critical race theory, indoctrination, critical race theory. And, I remember watching the map in terms of, the votes and stuff like that. And I was surprised that it was heavily red, particularly in the suburban DC area, Fairfax County area, and the county that incorporates Alexandria, it was surrounded by red. And I always thought that usually, particularly the Fairfax County area or the Arlington County area of Virginia, which is just outside of DC, it would probably be blue. And it was, Richmond was the only, the only city that was blue and all that. And,
just for everyone's purpose, because you're talking a US topic.
US state,
For UK, blue means Labour, red means Conservative. So we over here, I would assume blue is
Yeah.
conservative. It's not.
Yeah.
It's the other way around.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, blue is Democrat and red is
Democrats. Yeah,
and
I say Labour,
Republican and all that.
Democrats. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was quite happy about it because not only was it there were parents fighting in terms of essentially fighting to not want their kids to be taught critical race theory and so on and so forth, but it also sent a message to the elites, particularly the progressives, enrichment in I think and other major cities that is controlled by leftists, that they're not going to tolerate their kids being taught critical race theory.
I mean, I respect their rights to want to govern exactly what they don't want their kids to be hearing, because again, it's all part of the indoctrination. And this is it, isn't it? When it comes to this situation, this topic here, it all comes back to the same thing. We need to, and that K dude you put on here, ever notice how the Chinese don't give a about who holds political power? They don't, because they have agency for their own self-sufficient economy called Chinatown. Now, I would say I agree. There's two things here. They have you said they have their own agency, and that's exactly what we need. If people have their own agency, and a lot of that is due to economics, and that is because they have a collective either group of economic power. They have Chinatown, Asians have their communities, Jews have their communities, what they hold dear, and they keep it. Whereas we're still fighting, we're still struggling for that at the moment. We're still struggling for that kind of even concept of agency through economics. But once you have that, then all it needs is a few politically minded individuals, and the rest will pretty much follow, because you have the agency, because you have financial power. Once you have that kind of financial capital, then it's easier. Not saying it's you can't do it without it, but it's easier as a group to maneuver and say, we don't want our kids being taught this. Obviously, individually, people are taking their own precautions if they can. Again, I talked about the supplementary schools. And this is it. If you're not going to teach my kids what they should be learning, then okay, cool. Either we petition to the government, we go through the right channels and processes, kick up a stink. By the end of the day, I'll be like this: if you have the financial agency, take them out of school. If you can put them into some other type of situation, if some people are fortunate enough to go through, I don't know if private school is going to be is still exempt from indoctrination. I don't assume it is, but if you have that kind of finance to do what you need to do, then by all means. Even homeschooling now, again, homeschooling, that's another new thing that's on the rise, because a lot of people now, they're just sick and tired of it. Whether they're not being taught correctly or they're being indoctrinated, people are sick and tired of it. Parents are sick and tired of it. So it's definitely something which I probably might have to do a stream on about, if I homeschooling and the ideas of that, or supplementary schools that we should be running. So that's something I might put into the into the chamber. But what do you think about that, Ozzy? Obviously, you talk about your Richmond, Virginia sort of stories, but do you believe that a lot more people should take their kids out of the mainstream schools because of these types of indoctrination that's going on? You still there? You still there? Okay, I'll take that as you're away from the keyboard. But yeah, so I do think when it comes to, again, going back to the topic of, is this the new face of masculinity? Is masculinity in threat? I mean, at threat? Yes. It's been for a long time. I mean, I remember when, if people can remember, a few years back, Gillette did an advert, which this backfired in ways I don't think even they forecasted. They did an advert talking about, toxic masculinity, and it was pretty much shitting on everything that makes a guy a guy. And it was just stupid stereotypes. I was talking about, we have masculinity, this range that we accept, but it was just taking the complete wrong direction about what it is to be a man and how men are seen, and it completely backfired on them because they tried to be woke. And the worst thing about it is, how are you, as Gillette, a company who primarily sell their actual product to men, how are you going to do it like that? I mean, I would love to know who was sitting on the board of marketing when not only was this advert produced, but who signed off on this? This couldn't have been straight men. I'm sorry, straight men. It had to be either women or non-straight men who signed off on this. But here's the thing: they lost so much finances. They, I think, lost $1 billion, or I think it was even £1 billion got written off the whole entire stock market off the back of that. And you know what? The funniest thing about it is, this is how you know the indoctrination is real. When they asked the question of the Gillette, I want to say it was the CEO or the Gillette owner, one of the two, about it. Do you know what the person said? Why they obviously regretted the fact that they lost all that kind of finances. They didn't regret actually putting out that advert. They didn't regret it. They did not regret nothing. Nothing. And I was like, are you kidding me? Listen, not only if I was in that business, heads would have to roll for that kind of stuff, but they weren't even they didn't even issue an apology. They weren't apocalyptic. They were nothing. They were pretty much happy with what they produced, and they didn't want to change a thing. And I thought to myself, do you see how the indoctrination is real about masculinity? How not only is it at threat, it's been at threat for the longest. Again, we go for the history of, again, fashion tells its own tale. People say, oh, it goes around in circles, but it tells its own tale, man. I'm telling you, when you go from the baggy jeans, but even still, when you go the trousers sagging down, that's how it starts. And this is meant to be hood culture. You got the earrings being pierced, you got the ears being pierced, you got the tongue being pierced. These are all acceptable traits for a man. And then you have the skinny jeans. It all translates to how the masculinity has always been at for the longest. And we try and say that we're progressive. We try and say that we're trying to, we're trying to learn, our ancestors, we scoff at our ancestors like they were dumb. They didn't have the technology that was around these days. We have all this technology. We scoff at a lot of things that our ancestors did, because even I did this, youngster. That's backwards. I always say this quite a lot. Oh, that's backwards. What my grandparents did, what my parents did. Oh, that was backwards. Why did they do that way? That's backwards. I used to laugh and scoff a little bit. I did it when some of the stuff that they used to do. But now I'm thinking, I guarantee our ancestors from the grave are looking down at us, and they're probably laughing their heads off that for a group that's meant to be this smart, a group that's that technologically sound, a group that has all this information in plain sight, courtesy of their smartphone, that we are screwing up on one of the most basic foundational things on humankind. What is a man? What is a woman? Think about that for a second. Beforehand, people were trying to figure out how to feed their families. People were trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B in the most quickest, optimal route. Now we don't have to really worry about that. We have cars, we have planes, we have all this easy technology right at our fingertips. I mean, they even said this, that the technology that everyone has in their smartphone is more advanced than the technology that was used to send a man to the moon or into space even. Yet and still, the issues that we're facing in the 21st century, in 2021, going on, is about what is a man, what is a woman, who is dumb, who is smart. That's my question. That's my final question. Are we really as smart as our ancestors, or are we dumber than our ancestors? Because I've got to say it as it is. Why on paper we seem to be smart? Why on let's say our civilization we seem to want to be smart? I actually say the opposite. I think we actually are regressing as a great race of people. I think we really are. I think we're regressing as just human civilization, because when it comes to things which I thought should have been simple as 2 + 2 = 4. Now it's a case of, oh my gosh, is it really? Oh my gosh, this is what's happening. So when I see these types of things, we talk about being progressive, all these kind of things that come off the back of it, I'm like, I don't know about that. I don't know. I seem to be in a different camp. Am I too old school? I don't know. But when I see these things, I'm like, bro, have we progressed to the point of stupidity? Sometimes I see these things, I listen to these things, I think, oh, this can't be life. This really can't be life. There's some things which I needed. There's some things which I don't see it as being life at all. I see this as just being man. I'm in a bad dream. I'm in a nightmare. Just wake me up of this nightmare. And it's only going to get worse if we don't say something about it. But that's my thoughts. That's my opinions on this whole matter. So I kind of didn't want to go too long on this, to be fair to everyone. So I kind of want to end the stream right now. Ozzy, you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, cool. Do you have any other final sort of thoughts or anything which you just wanted to bring new to light? 'Cause I'm gonna end the stream in a couple of seconds. So is there anything else you wanted to add to the convo?
Well, nothing much really, but in regards to the whole gender issue and stuff like that, it's part of identity politics. And it's just the whole. I think people started noticing it for the last 19 months. That's what I've noticed since the lockdown.
Yeah, I do think lockdown has played a massive part in a lot of things, because people are just, well, I suppose, was it the devil makes works of idle hands, and when people are idle, I think they a lot of pent up rage and there's a lot of frustration of boiled over, and yeah, a lot of loud voices, probably minority voices, but very loud, very loud.
Yeah.
But the problem is, though, it's not just it's open up conversations, but it's policies are being changed. I mean, again, it's like, I understand if it's just a conversation, but it's more than that now. This is the thing I was talking about, how the LGBTQ community plus, they've just, it's more than just loud voices. It's conversations, it's political movements, power structure. It's more than that. So yeah, lockdown has caused a lot of situations to just be out of control. Even when it comes to the race situation, let's keep it real.
Yeah. That's, it's a bit, yeah. It's quite mad though. Like, it's just amazed me how people become very brainwashed and essentially adopting identitarian views and stuff like that, which is quite strange anyway. But yeah, in regards to the companies that are embracing those woke agendas, stuff like that, I think that eventually what's going to happen is it's going to affect their bottom line. I think from a company's point of view, they have to take consideration the shareholders. Most of the customers who happen to be the shareholders are not mostly woke people. And and they have to be impartial about it. I think that most people, for instance, Marcus Spencer's is a traditional brand, and it's tend to be people who are middle class people that tend to shop at Marks and Spencer's, and I think that I think it's a disservice for Marcus Spencer's to engage in work agendas and stuff like that, given the fact that most of their customers don't, nor their shareholders, their employees probably ain't, are not, or probably are not. And also in job interviews, they tend to also say, for instance, which pronoun should I use to address you, or something like that.
Yeah, do you know when I saw that on the form, I was like, what? Sometimes it doesn't sometimes really click until you see that kind of stuff. You're like, oh my days, we are really in this generation where you have to, your pronoun. It's like, don't call me no cis male. I'm just a male. But pronouns, thee, they, them. And the thing is, the type of pronouns are just like, what? Where did this all come from? But you see how quick it's been infiltrated into just normal life. You see what I'm saying? So, bro, I'm saying, man, honestly,
it's just mad, really, and I think that I remember one time I was in a job interview, and that person told me that, and I was taken back from it. But yeah, then I realized that as he was saying it in a way that as if he didn't want to say it, but he had to say it, as if he was forced to say it or something like that. And the reason why I came to that conclusion was that he said that he'd done that nervous laugh, something like that. He knew, obviously, it's not a normal thing to say and all that. It wasn't a normal thing to say 3, maybe 4 years ago and all that, but now it's a normal thing to say now. And it's just, and it's, I think, it's the same, really. We live in the West and all that. A place where there's freedom. And freedom to think, the freedom and the pursuit of happiness, and
you make a good point there. Sorry, you make a good point about that.
Yeah, and it's for somebody, and and I'm thinking to myself, okay, as he was speaking to me, I'm thinking to myself, I wonder how a Cuban person or a Venezuelan person that lands in Miami, what does he think? What does he or she think? Is she in a free place? Obviously, Florida is a conservative state, but but when the grand scheme of things, when you're looking at the US and all that, it's very blue. it's very blue, you know, and you
I was
have
gonna ask,
those
are you in the are you in the US currently? Because I was
no,
thinking
no,
you're talking about it. I was like, okay.
no, I'm still in UK, but that's my observation. You know, that's what that was what I was thinking, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, if most people don't believe that, then they're obviously being forced to think that, you know, and they're forced to because you know otherwise they might not, you know, their livelihoods might be affected, or it's just somebody, you know, in the organization making sure that they are, you know, that they are saying the right things and all that, but it's a telltale sign that you know people are being you know forced in duress to be saying those you know statements as you know in the statements in terms of you know asking people what you know what is their pronouns and stuff like that. You know, it's just it's bizarre and insane. Or that usually it will probably you know be you know 2018 or 2017. They'll probably say, "What should I call you? Should I call you Mister, Sir?" Or you know, or you don't identify as you know either one of them, and that now and that will be the that now and that will probably be the option. But now it's just it's a very politically driven. Is it really you know you know in all aspects of life, you know it's very it's politically you know there's a sense of political there's a political assault on every institution that is deemed to be apolitical. Of course, you know, companies have to be of course, you know, companies have taken into consideration political aspects of things when they take into consideration, you know, pest analysis and, you know, analyzing the political aspect in terms of, you know, the political, environmental, you know, that could affect, you know, their company and all that. And therefore, you know, if they get it wrong, that potentially could affect their bottom line and it could actually scare off their shareholders, particularly customers or external you know, external shareholders. I mean, sorry, should I say external stakeholders? Should I say, in terms of creditors and customers and so on and so forth. But I don't think that if Sainsbury's get it wrong, you know, for instance, you know, pronouns and stuff like that, I don't think they're going to be cancelled or anything like that. I think they're going. I think many people are going to be saying, "Hold on a minute." I think that Sainsbury's are probably going to be, you know, I think they probably reached to a sensible conclusion in which they do recognize consensus amongst the people that you know that whole you know pronoun thing and all that is really you know utterly useless because most people tend to not use it.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'll say, and I'll say this to wrap up, is companies are trying to be seen to do the right thing
Yeah,
as opposed to actually doing the right thing. So a lot of things you were saying there is what companies are, seem to be pressured into doing is taking these stances because it's again a hot topic issue. It's you must include this or other, and sometimes they take waves of other companies. So if other companies do it, they see what their reaction is like, then oh, okay, that's acceptable. But they always seem to want to try to do the right thing as opposed to actually doing the right thing. And a lot of times, it's a fine line. I'm not gonna lie to you, there's a bit of a fine line, but there's some things which, for the life of me, because when people create adverts and products, they normally go through various degrees of
yeah,
not only testing, but they have like groups where they pitch it to. Where I forgot the term. It's like when you have a pilot testing, you have like pilot testing. They should have
mm,
testing when it comes to their products and advertising. What is the market saying? Do they like it or do they not like it? And I'm like, they must have chose like the most biased group ever, which with no counterbalancing. They must have chose like the most biased group ever, where it's just not a almost their unbiased group, just so it comes back saying positive, positive. Because some of these things that gets released, I'm pretty sure they could not have gone through this kind of stages. It's just let's get it out. But for the amount of money that they are willing to lose on it, I don't know why they don't go for this kind of situation. But again, companies nowadays are trying to be seen to do the right thing as opposed to actually doing the right thing. And it's worrying times, man. It's worrying times because the
yeah,
next thing which I can imagine, we talk about, gender differences, but I can see the same thing happen we see it now with almost racial differences. But let's be honest, you can be almost like trans race now, isn't it? I mean,
mm.
situation that we saw with what's her name, Rachel
Rachel
Dolezal,
also 6 years ago, yeah,
and I'm like this. That I can imagine right now that would be the new thing where think about it. You can say you who whatever race or whatever color, whatever creed, whatever ethnicity that you want to say, and no one can say anything different, even though we can
yeah,
see you are not what you are. But that's what's going to happen. So
yeah,
I'm waiting for that situation to take place. I really am because again, once we let this Pandora's box opened, everything is fair game. This is the problem. Everything becomes fair game. And that's really going to bite a lot of people right where they don't want to hit it. So, yeah.
I felt, yeah. So Rachel Dolezal's situation was quite bizarre anyway. I always felt at the time, that you have a woman, from Montana, a white woman from Montana who, appeared to be or claimed to be black or all that. That in itself told me that, and she actually ended up getting a scholarship. So what it told me actually is that the takeaway of that, how I analyzed it was that, she essentially said, hold on a minute, I might as well identify as black and all that because I might get scholarship and I'll probably be treated as somebody who's a minority, and I'll probably have like a quote unquote people in her political persuasion, they would say as victimhood status and all that. But yeah, at the same time also as well create a racial awakening amongst certain people of American society, saying that hold on a minute, minorities probably getting better and all that because they have affirmative action, so on and so forth. But the whole thing about Rachel Dolezal, it wasn't even a positive thing, but it was a very negative thing. When you actually essentially analyze it very deeply, you have a woman that pretends to be black, and she goes to NAACP. She got a scholarship and so on and so forth.
Look, I don't know if you saw the live stream, Ozzy, that I did about can you be pro-black and day out, and on that stream, one of the panelists was basically saying you can be white, and because you grew up in a certain area or you're almost been accepted by another group, you can pretty much get away with certain things which another group shouldn't be allowed to get away with because of they culturally. This is what it is now. You're kind of culturally black. So in answer to that question, because she's culturally black, you could argue she went to HBCU, she probably donated to NAACP, all that kind of stuff. Or she preaches black, she is that kind of stuff. Then this is the way I keep saying you can no doubt see this kind of stuff in the future. I mean, I read a story that happened it was in Stoke-on-Trent, where this white guy was saying again, these black guys will allow me to say these things because I'm cool with them. I'm like, this is what takes place where these things, you can just see how it creeps and creeps and creeps. And then by the time you've looked around, whoa, snap, we have a lot of people identifying as something completely different. And who are we to say that they're not that? You know what I mean? Who are we to say that they're not that? Because again, when it comes to gender, which for me is more of a hard, fast line, they're saying that they can be a woman if they feel they're a woman. They can say that they're a man if they feel that they're a man. So why not this be this next thing? Why not? Why wouldn't it be?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand. And I think that, person I would say, certain, phrases and all that, for instance, a non-black person put N-word and all that, and I would say, well, my black friends are very cool, are comfortable for me, comfortable with me using that term amongst them. I think that in itself is quite alarming, and it raises red flags as well, because what it really tells me is that his so-called friends really don't really care really, and and they're very mediocre.
Maybe so, but
Yeah.
it's the thing is it's just the trends, isn't it? It's going to be a situation where you can see it manifesting in different ways, and you can see it just growing and growing and growing. I mean, obviously, it's a very, very unique situation, but come on now, people catch on to things. We're not dumb. We know how things work, and even if they're just lying, it's just these trends. I'm just curious about how it's going to progress. So we may say, "Oh, it ain't going to happen," and it's just a blood of degenerate people who allow this kind of stuff to take place. So don't pay them no mind.
Yeah.
Fine. But I'm going to tell you this now: a lot of these degenerates seem to have a lot more louder voices than the people who are smart people. This is one thing which I will say about smart people.
They have clout. They have clout. They're a minority, but they have clout.
Yeah. Usually, smart people, because they just want to get on with things and they don't want to cause a fuss. They're usually the ones who don't speak aloud. The ones who do speak the loudest are usually, it's just unfortunately true, the dumbest, and they're the ones who get these things got through. That's why
they don't have anything to lose.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, if you get someone that have nothing to lose, then yeah, that's even more compounded. But a lot of times, you don't know, it's like in when you're in school, when you're sitting in class, usually the ones who are acting a fool aren't the smartest ones. They're the dumb ones. The ones who are acting a fool, loud, being boisterous, they're usually the ones who are dumb. Obviously, not all of them are, but usually the ones who are likely lesser on that, taking a test scale, getting an A or A star or A double star nowadays. The smarter ones are like the ones who just want to do their business, get about it, and just go. This is what happens in reality. The ones who make the loudest noises, they aren't, you know what I mean? They're not necessarily the smartest ones, I'm telling you.
Can I ask you a question? In every religion, there's a sense of a person, a believer of a certain religion can, essentially, ask for forgiveness. If they committed sins or committed offenses that go against their religion, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, and people talking about work being a religion, I think it's a lot worse. If somebody, for instance, was a Christian or that, he'd probably ask forgiveness because, there's a room for that person to, room for that person to ask for forgiveness and, repent for their sins or atone for their sins. And usually they'll probably, would do it in a way that, in a sincere manner, and eventually they will probably, be forgiven all that, from a Christian perspective and all that, or from any other religion perspective. But however, when it comes to work culture, it's totally different. If a person says something wrong, for instance, calls into question, gender and the identity politics and so on and so forth. What that person would actually suffer, it will suffer greatly. They'll say, a person, I remember a lot of people saying, controversial statements that shouldn't be controversial, and they're sacked from their job and all that. And usually I think talk radio, people on talk radio would say, hold on a minute, you shouldn't be apologizing and all that because, he said what he said and all that. But even if you apologize, you still wouldn't be forgiven by the mob.
I mean, to answer your question, I mean, it seems like it's not a religion. It's what would I really call it? I mean, in all, it's not a religion just because it doesn't have the framework that religions have. Again,
it doesn't have it doesn't give people the opportunity to atone for their,
but it's more than that, isn't it? It's more than that, really, isn't it? It's a religion. Religion is obviously governed by a framework which is usually directed to some sort of higher power, higher being for a purpose. Whereas woke culture, really, I mean, that swings left and right as much as the wind blows. And I've not seen any sort of, higher purpose other than people who call themselves conscious and they want to make sure that everyone's sort of free to express themselves. If that's what you call a religion, I don't know. I don't think so. No, nowhere near what I call it that at all.
Yeah, but like, you probably think those people are probably kind people and very understanding people, but they are totally opposite. They're deeply cruel people. That's what I've noticed. Deeply cruel, particularly the progressive people, so-called progressive left people. They are very cool people.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose
I'm not going to say like in a general term, but from what I've saw, from what I've seen, they tend to be very cruel people, stuck up people.
I mean, I like anything, isn't it? In any sort of sector, in any movement. Yeah, you're right. I think this seems more toxic for sure. But I assume there are pretty decent woke people out there who are just, aware and conscious of certain things. But yeah, there are a lot of really, 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 really aggressively toxic people, for sure. But anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to close up the stream. I've been going longer than I wanted to, so I'm going to close up the stream. Thank you for coming on the panel. Thank you as well for Medora for coming on. He didn't really come back, so I know he said he was sorting some stuff out, but we'll definitely catch another live stream. We can probably tackle that topic about the gender war and what's going on with that. But that's bro, that's a long one. And even if we want to take it to the black man and black woman war, that's even another long one. But another time. But thank you for everyone who's been listening in. Make sure, please make sure you hit the like button if you have not already. If you are listening to the playback, please make sure you hit the like button. If you are new, please make sure you subscribe, click the bell, all that good stuff. I'm going to try and go live another time this week. I'm just going to be completely frank and honest with everyone. I've been just lazy. I don't know what it is, but since the clocks went back, I don't know what's happening, but my brain has just said I'm switching off. I ain't doing anything I don't need to do. So yeah, I've been pushing back lives, been pushing back content, everything. But I'm going to definitely try and go live later this week. But don't stress me on it. I'm going to try. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Catch everyone on the next one. Have a great few days until I see you on the next one. All right, peace.
Bye.